Okay, coming to you live from the Kensington Oval in Barbados, and if you've been watching my reports from here yesterday after the Indian team's practice, I'd said coming to you from a very hot Barbados. It's kind of changed today. I'm coming to you from a cloudy and a windy Barbados. That doesn't mean that it's cold like English conditions or the kind of conditions that we got in the USA. Here it still is hot and humid, but not as hot and humid as it was yesterday when the Indian team was hard at work. And if you saw our report, you got an idea of what the team was up to on that occasion. What's the latest update from today? That's exactly what we're going to be telling you. We are at the moment standing at match day -2. So 2 days to go for India's first Super 8 game. Today was also an optional training session for the Indian team, but the entire squad turned up. So that's firstly the update that I have for you. The entire squad turning up for an optional training session. Please excuse me for the audio in case you have issues hearing me, because it's quite windy, so pardon me for that. But yeah, coming back to India's practice session yesterday, match day -3, optional training session. Everyone came and everyone practiced, barring Rohit Sharma, if you remember my video from yesterday. Today everyone came, barring Rishabh Pant. Rishabh Pant was the only one who did not come for practice. Everyone else came, including Rohit Sharma. But the difference was, yesterday Rohit was the observer. Today even Rohit Sharma was practicing. So an optional training session in Barbados, back to back, yet the entire team came out to practice, and that's a rarity. Usually optional training session, you only see a few members of the team turn up, but on these two occasions, the last 2 days, we've had the entire squad turning up. What are the reasons behind that? Let me give you a bit of an insight on that. Two primary reasons why, even on an optional training session, the Indian team has been coming in full numbers. One, because they haven't had too much of game time. Remember, they last played their game versus the USA. After that, they've had a lot of free time. The game versus Canada got washed off, and then now there's also a bit of a gap before they play their Super 8 stage. Quite different to, let's say, where Afghanistan is. Afghanistan played a game yesterday. Today they are flying. Today they are flying. Yesterday was their game. Tomorrow they'll practice, and then they have a game. So not too much of a gap for a team like Afghanistan. India has had a pretty long gap. So what has happened in that pretty long gap? That they haven't had a lot of time to play a match or even practice. Remember, they could not even practice in Miami because of the rain. So that's one reason why majority of the players have been coming to practice even in optional training session. Going forward, I'll tell you exactly what they did in the optional training session, but let's focus on why the entire squad has been coming. The other thing is, and I asked that question to Suryakumar Yadav, who spoke to the media today, that were the pitches that you got in USA different to the pitches that you're getting here in the West Indies? Because, you know, knowing from the Indian team the kind of messaging that was coming from there, they were rather relieved that they had moved from there, from USA, because even the practice pitches weren't great there. So I asked that question to Suryakumar Yadav, and he said yes, even practice facilities or the practice pitches here are much better than the pitches they got in USA. So if less players were practicing in the USA, that's because, and this is the word that Suryakumar Yadav used, he used the word spicy for the pitches in the USA. Spicy meant that there was a bit in there for bowlers and the ball was rising even from good length. We had reported that on Sports Today. So sometimes there's a risk of injury, sometimes there's a risk of not being able to time the shots to your liking, and that can sometimes put in doubts in your mind. So because the pitches here in Barbados are good, also because, as Suryakumar Yadav mentioned, that this is a regular cricketing venue, this is a place where regular cricket happens, so better training facility. So he said because of the better practice pitches also, every batsman wants to make use of those conditions. So that's why majority of the batters and bowlers are coming here to practice in truer condition. Another reason why a majority of the players are coming to practice here, and this is also something that Suryakumar Yadav alluded to, is that from here on, they've had a bit of a gap I mentioned earlier. From here on, it's going to be hectic for the Indian team. It's hectic season going ahead. So you play a game on the 20th, 22nd, 24th. All 3 games back to back with just a day in between. And even on those days, you are actually traveling. So not much time for the team to have a lot of practice session. Mostly now, after the Afghanistan game on Thursday, India is going to have back-to-back travel, 1 day gap, which means they may not have another practice session. So this probably was the last proper practice session that they've had. tomorrow here is still one day before the match, but usually we've seen a trend with the Indian players that one day before the match they tend to relax. So this probably was the last full-fledged practice session that the Indian team has had ahead of the semi-final. If they make the semi-final, that is. Only at the semi-final stage they'll get an extra day, maybe then they'll practice. So ahead of the semi-final, there's not too much of a gap for the Indian players, which is why they're trying to make the most of these days that they've got to practice. So which is why we are seeing them come out to practice. Okay, so that's the reason and the rationale behind the Indian team coming out for practice back to back and working really hard. Now to what really happened in the practice session. If the batting order in the practice session is anything to go by, and that's not always 100% foolproof, because you know, batting order sometime in the practice session is very different and the 11 that plays is very different, but sometime it does give you an indication. It does seem like that Indian team is going to go unchanged for the game versus Afghanistan. They've been playing pretty much the same 11 in their first round games, and most likely you're going to be seeing the same 11 even in the Super 8 stage, at least for the game versus Afghanistan. At least the batting order. So your batting order: Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli batting first, Suryakumar Yadav batting alongside them. As I mentioned, Pant wasn't there, so he's not there, but he practiced a lot yesterday. And then followed by Hardik Pandya, Shivam Dube, Ravindra Jadeja and Akshar Patel. So that is pretty much your batting order, and that's how they practiced even in this practice session, giving you an idea that you're going to be seeing a similar Indian team that you've been seeing so far in the first round stage here as well. So for those of you expecting maybe a Yashasvi coming in or a Sanju coming in, not quite. Sanju and Yashasvi also batted, but after the main bunch had done. So giving you an idea, batting order remains the same. Now to the 11. The only possible change you can see is going to be a Kuldeep Yadav coming in. Kuldeep also has been hard at work. He's been bowling a lot of overs in the nets. Only possible change that you see in the 11, not in the batting order, maybe in the bowling order, where Kuldeep comes in for a fast bowler, and that most likely will be Siraj. That's a likelihood. That is not to say that this is happening. If you ask me what are the chances, I would say that more chances of a Siraj playing over Kuldeep at the moment, looking at what the Indian team is thinking. Not my personal choice, but looking at the way the Indian team is going about things, I still see an unchanged 11 even in this game. The only way they bring in a Kuldeep is if they have a spin friendly pitch here. So what's the kind of pitch that we are going to get here? I think you're going to see a good batting pitch in Barbados. I did have a look at the pitch. Most of the time it was covered. It was raining, it was covered, but then finally got to see the pitch. And it has a slight different tinge to the typical Barbados pitch. The typical Barbados pitch is usually dark brown, which is helpful for fast bowling and helpful for batting. This is a lighter shade of brown. In fact, Sky was asked this in the press conference, because remember he played an ODI series here not too long ago, and he was asked that question, that is it a similar pitch? He said no, it looks slightly different. The color is slightly different. It does give you an impression that it might be slightly more spin friendly than the previous Barbados pitch that we saw in the ODIs when India came out to play. But even then, most likely you will see India going with the fast bowlers, and 3 fast bowlers plus a Hardik Pandya seems to be the kind of position that the Indian team find themselves in. There will be a bit of lack of pace. I don't think you'll get a pitch like you saw in St. Lucia, 200 plus. But remember, there was a game here, which the first game, if I'm not mistaken, England-Australia was that game where you saw 200 runs being scored. So even though there's been a few days after that, but it's still a high scoring pitch, and on a high scoring pitch you rather go with fast bowlers, more fast bowlers, because they can bowl in different stages: power play, middle overs, and in the death. For spinners, if you play 3 spinners, are you going to bowl all 3 spinners 4 overs? Because spinners can only bowl in the middle overs. You barely see them in power play, you barely see them in the death. Will India play 3 spinners? I doubt. Which is why I'm saying still think 3 fast bowlers, and Hardik is what Indian team is going to play. One other very interesting thing that you noticed today, usually if this is the pitch, you see the roller go like this, up and down, like running between the wickets. That's how the roller runs. Today I saw a very interesting thing. The roller was running cross. So 4-5 strips in the middle center that you have, usually 4-5 different batting strips, it was being rolled like this. So it was rolling all 4-5 pitches simultaneously, but going across. Now what does that tell me? That tells me that you're really going to flatten the pitch out. You're really going to take the juice out of the pitch out, and you're going to have similar strips of pitches. Usually strips are very different, the color is different, their nature is different, but here you're going to have similar pitches. And also tells me that, oh, look at that breeze, my camera was just going to tip over. That's why I said much better conditions, much more breezy today. That might also play a role for the fast bowlers. Also remember, even though it's a day game, this is a much more open ground, very few stands here, which allows the breeze to cut across, go across the stadium, which allows the ball to swing as well. So you could be tempted to play more fast bowlers to India's strength. Yeah, going back to the pitches, because you roll them like this, you're really flattening them out and making them a pata pitch. So there's a good chance it again is a high scoring ground, unlike the kind of grounds that we've seen so far. Maybe not St. Lucia, but also not Antigua, also not New York and Florida. Somewhere in the middle, 180 sort of a pitch what you could see. So these are the certain things that the Indian team concentrated on, what the Indian team spoke about. No talk in terms of 11. They're keeping their cards very close to the chest, so no indication on that front that we saw, or neither did Suryakumar Yadav speak about. And he was also asked about playing the spinners. Remember, India is going to be up against spinners a lot. Afghanistan boasts of a lot of spinners. So we did see Suryakumar Yadav and a few other players in Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma. I saw them in practice today playing spinners and trying different variations of shots. So I saw them play a lot of sweep, a lot of cross-batted shots to negate the spin. Virat was doing that, Rohit was doing that, Sky was doing that, Hardik was doing that. They're all practicing that because they know against Afghanistan they need to pull that. Also a lot of reverse sweeps, also a lot of scoop shots behind to the spinner. So different kinds of variation the Indian batters were concentrating on, keeping in mind that up next is going to be Afghanistan and a bunch of spinners. The spinners weren't very good in St. Lucia last night versus West Indies, and I think that's the kind of pressure. You saw how Nicholas Pooran was playing their spinners. Rashid, putting his front leg out and clearing them over mid-wicket, playing cross-batted shots. The Indian batters were also practicing a lot of that, preparing themselves for the Afghanistan game. So that's the latest from India's practice session 2 days ahead of the game. Of course, they'll come out for practice 1 day before, but I doubt the full team will be there. I also will bring you the latest in terms of press conference. Most likely the captain comes and speaks. So all the latest for that, you need to subscribe to Sports Today. Ooh, look at that breeze. Subscribe to Sports Today, press the bell icon so you know next time I'm live with the update. There's also a very interesting story coming up about two legends, one West Indian legend meeting a current Indian legend. I'm talking about Wes Hall, Virat Kohli. That story is going to be coming up on Sports Today very shortly. So yeah, press that bell icon. For the moment, take care, guys. Thanks for all the loves that you're showering on us and our content. Do share it with your cricket loving friends. And yeah, take care. Bye bye. Nikhil Nas signing off from Barbados. See you soon.